How many of you know that Alaska is now a surfing destination? That's something it didn't used to be in the first century, but in the 21st century, it actually is, because wetsuit technology is now good enough. But I'm really not here to talk about surfing. I'm here to talk about this place, Yukutat, Alaska, and these people. It's the Yakutat Presbyterian Church, and I served as their intern pastor this past summer. When I got there, I discovered that, and I was pretty nervous, some people around here know that when I was going up there, because I was the only minister for this town. And I was really nervous about going in and how was I going to help them. But I learned real quickly that they have a lot in common with what I always looked at as first century churches. They're a small group of people, but they're very good at ministering to each other and to the entire town. The church is really a spiritual hub up there, which helped me as a minister. The reason they're so good at that is because they very often don't really have ministers. They kind of get itinerant ministers that kind of come passing through. It's what I call a teaching church, or what somebody else told me could be defined as a teaching church. These churches that we've heard about that didn't have regular ordained clergy or trained clergy, but they had ministers that came through and kept in contact with them and helped them be the church because the people were the church. And in all the churches I've been in my life, a lot of the big churches, that would be their dream. We spend most of our time trying to teach these people how to be the church. And here I am this summer serving in a church that already knew how to do it. They were what I imagine is some of those churches that we heard about earlier in China, those ones we can't always count, okay? Because they don't have professional clergy, but they love Jesus. They know how to minister to each other. They want to know more about how to follow in his path. In other words, this church taught me that the first century church can be a very valid model for churches in the 21st century. It's a model that is even easier now with 21st century technology than it probably was in the first century. So how do we help smaller churches understand that they can be a teaching church, a church where they are the church even though they don't have ministers, something that's becoming more and more real for a lot of churches, not just in isolated places in Alaska? Well, we support them by first helping to name what it is they're doing, that they are a teaching church, a church that teaches each other about Christianity and teaches their community, reach outs, and ministers. We help them claim that as a positive identity, not an identity they should be worried about. We help them live into it, and we really and truly help them celebrate it. It's hard for these little churches to believe they're churches when we make it sound like you're only a church if you have ordained clergy and you have a building. So how do we go about doing that? Well, if you're involved with presbyteries or committees for the preparation of ministry, you do what my presbytery did to me. I tend to be a mission person. I didn't want to serve in a church. I wanted to do like a nonprofit for my internship. They told me I had to do a church. So we send these people out and we ask them to be ministers in the churches that have trouble hiring ministers full-time. And it's really an amazing teaching experience for our seminary students. And yes, I will finally graduate in another month or two. Thank you. We help with funding. Somebody helped fund, this was done through the Seattle Presbytery. Somebody helped fund my internship to go up and serve at this little church where they taught me far more about being a minister than I probably taught them. What about seminaries? I know I sat with somebody yesterday and I said part of my discussion was just for you. Seminaries, you need to quit saying that all of your internships are close by and convenient to where you're in school. Quit sending them to the church that may have a couple ministers already. Encourage us to get out, push us out of our comfort zone. And yes, I've had this discussion with seminarians who like to push back on me. But get us out of our comfort zone and send us out to be itinerant ministers in some of these smaller churches. Create classes. It's really a part-time that I did up in Alaska. Create some classes that could be done in conjunction as a distance learner. Larger churches, consider giving your pastor an extra couple weeks of vacation and send them out to this place or one of these small churches where they're going to learn some new stuff and some new energy for your church as well, and share your resources with them. And of course, everyone needs to be in prayer, and everyone can help fund these kind of programs. So the first century church is really a valid model that we need to encourage in the 21st century. It's a model that is still extremely usable for people to learn, experience, and teach the way. If you want more information, there's contact information. I know that the Northern Light Church is trying to help set up some more internships, and I do have a few limited pamphlets if you want to talk to me afterwards. Thank you.